Public phone charging stations are really popular. Like if they were politicians, they'd be elected in a landslide. But like politicians, apparently they can be corrupted. Good morning. I'm Rock 107's Prospector. You've seen them all over the place. Okay? Restaurants, airports, malls. But the FBI has issued a warning against using public charging stations in places like airports, hotels, shopping centers. They say that the bad guys have figured out a way to use public USB ports to introduce malware and monitoring software onto devices. Frankly, this is old news. In fact, Apple already tries to mitigate this by having you have to trust certain devices when you plug into them so you can supposedly plug into a public charging station and not have to worry about them uploading malware. But you could unknowingly connect your phone to bad stuff through your USB, software that could give hackers access to your device. You don't want to do that. Now, there's a simple workaround, though. Bring your full charging cable with the brick. There aren't any issues with charging through a plug. It's just when you stick your cable directly into a USB port and then plug your phone into it that way. The FBI didn't specify any specific locations or cases. This is just a general advisory. It's good advice, and I'm happy to pass it along. Bring your full charging brick or a portable charger. Don't trust those charging stations wherever they are.
Breaking the news that's already broken. It's time for Prospector's Briefs on Rock 107.
Tesla employees reportedly shared footage from drivers' cameras. Hey, at least in my crappy car, nobody's watching me sing Offspring songs as I drive. Scientists say being around attractive people can be stressful, which explains why everyone around me is always so darn relaxed. In Connecticut, there were reports of bears opening plastic Easter eggs and eating the candy inside. That's cute, I guess, but Easter egg bear doesn't scream box office gold.
Making sure breaking news stays broken. Tune in Monday for Prospector's Briefs on Rock 107. Especially if you're like Prospector.
Why is he such a jerk to everybody?
He struggles in his day-to-day encounters and often ends up asking himself, am I a jerk? On Rock 107.
Let me just preface this by saying I have no intention on following through with any of this. This is what's called an idle threat. Although I didn't want my brother to know that. I was just fed up, you know? So my mom passed away about 5 years ago. At the time, my brother was in the hospital awaiting a heart transplant. So he asked us not to intern the ashes. He said, look, I'll take them when I get out of the hospital and I get back home. Well, he was out of the hospital 2 months later, and I still have the urn. 5 years later, with my mother's ashes in him. And I've asked him to take the urn. I'm like, look, you wanted to take it. Oh, he's never done it. Last week, I got fed up, and I called and I told him, I said, you've got till the end of April to get Mom's ashes, or I'm throwing them out. Again, idle threat. I'm never going to do it. But I told him, get them by the end of the month or I'm tossing them out the door. Does that make me a jerk? Dana on Facebook.com/Angry Prospector. She said, yeah, kind of disrespectful to your deceased mother. Big time jerk move, says Walter. What do you think, Rock 107?
Yeah, I'd have to say that is a jerky move. That's your mom.
But I'm not going to actually do it. I'm just threatening.
I know. It's just you saying it.
That's bad enough, in other words.
That's bad enough. That's your mom.
The mere threat of it is bad enough to make me a jerk, and she's not alone in thinking that. Richie says, dude, that's messed up. You're totally a jerk. Nancy says, totally a jerk. I can't believe you'd even think that, let alone say it. Am I a jerk?
Yeah, no, you're not a jerk.
Yeah?
No, not at all. He was the one that said he wanted him to tell him to man up and take him. If not, deliver him to him. Give it to him as a present. But you're not a jerk.
Not a jerk on that one. That's awesome. Melissa says, I see your point on giving him all this time to get the urn. And he said it would take it, so I'd see why you're frustrated. So you're not a jerk for saying it. Now, if you ever actually really even thought about doing it, that would make you a jerk. What do you think? Threatening to take my mom's ashes and throw them out because my brother hasn't gotten them in 5 years, giving them to the end of the month to do it, even though I would never actually do it. Does that make me a jerk?
Good morning, Prospector.
Good morning.
Hey, what is wrong with both of you? That is your mother. I'm sure she took care of you more than 5 years that you're totally stuck with the urn. Come on, man.
And it's not like I'm really taking care of anything. It's just there, you know?
Right. Is that bothering you? I mean, I'd love to have my mother there. You know what I mean? It'd be something nice.
I think it bothers me because he's the one who's like, you got to do this, you got to do it, and now he doesn't want to grab her. Like, that's what bothers me.
Definitely, he's in the wrong, too. I mean, maybe you should share it or, have it a couple years each. That would be something nice.
There's a possibility there. The question today, am I a jerk for threatening to throw my mom's ashes away as an idle threat to get my brother to finally take them out of my house? And the answer, by an overwhelming margin, yes. I'm a jerk.
Life's pretty tough right now. There's plenty of bad news, but it's not all bad. It's time for the brighter side of Prospector on Rock 107.
A dad in northern Canada found out that his 16-year-old son needed a kidney transplant. The dad then lost 79 pounds so he could be the organ donor. He was 274 pounds at the time he got the news, and he had to get under 200 pounds. He's now down to 195 and was approved for the surgery last month. It'll happen in June.
Thanks. We needed that. The brighter side of Prospector on Rock 107.
I know of a couple Northeast PA marching bands that could kill this. Good morning, I'm Rock 107's Prospector. Rock band Metallica is challenging high school and college level marching bands to a competition using Metallica's own music. Winners will receive instruments and equipment for their school's program. Now, I've seen Pittston area's marching band crush a Kiss song. Mid-Valley's marching band, Riverside's bands do some great rock and roll songs. And I'm sure there are a ton of great school bands all over Northeast PA that can absolutely crush this. Bands that enter will have access to sheet music for 13 songs that Metallica's chosen, including For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black, and of course, Enter Sandman. There are 5 different categories. Collegiate Division 1, Collegiate Division 2 and 3, high school, and fan voting categories for both collegiate and high school. Submissions will be narrowed down to 5 finalists by professional judges, and then Metallica chooses the final prize winner. But of course, those fan favorite winners will be chosen by fan voting. If you want to do this, you got a high school marching band, a college marching band, you got to submit your videos by November 16th. So there's plenty of time. Winners will be announced in December. More information, you can head over to MetallicaMarchingBand.com, MetallicaMarchingBand.com. I'll have a link to that on my Facebook, Facebook.com/AngryProspector. I want to see a local NEPA band in this, just crushing it, ripping it apart to like Master of Puppets or something like that. That'd be so cool. We're spending more times in drive-thrus than ever before, and sometimes that flies, but other times it drags. And one thing that always makes me want to ram the driver in front of me, and that's people who leave too much space in front of them at the drive-thru. Yeah, like you don't need 2 car lengths, or even 1 car length, or even half a car length. I mean, you're traveling a mile per hour. You don't need that much room, and it makes the line seem longer. In fact, it makes the line actually longer. It pushes people farther away from the box they order from, thereby slowing everybody down.
Seriously?
I just saw a commercial for 3D Doritos the other day. Did I miss something? Were Doritos somehow breaking the laws of physics for decades? Not to be too picky, but thin as they are, Doritos have always been 3-dimensional. Even the tip of the sharpest blade of any razor you can find is very much 3D.
All right.
And this falls under really, really, really picky, but it infuriates me, so you're going to hear about it. You're watching a show on regular TV, broadcast TV, or cable, and they start by saying, presented with limited commercial interruptions. And I get where they're going, but there are always limited commercials. In fact, even if the entire hour was commercials, that's still a limit. 60 minutes, an hour of commercials is still limited, okay? Unless there's some sort of ongoing infinite loop of commercials that goes on forever, commercials are always limited, as is the program and our time here on Earth.
Nobody cares. You think that was bad? Try living with him. Love you, honey. Mean it.
Don't like the tax man. Yeah, the tax man. I told them that I took a loss. They garnish wages from my boss.
What's a yam bag? A fool, an idiot, a blockhead, a dunce, or an ignoramus. You know, a dullard, simpleton, or a clot, nitwit, dipstick, pea-brain, mouth breather, or cretin.
It's now time to announce the winner of Prospector's Yam Bag of the Day, as decided by you at rock107.com.
Here are the nominees. Nominee number 1.
Drinking and driving is stupid, but drunk drivers have become stupider than ever this year. A 30-year-old man in Connecticut named Mason Heath crashed his car into the Plainfield Police Department's entrance sign on Monday afternoon last week. He was speeding and driving recklessly, and it's unclear if he was drunk, on drugs, or both, but he was charged with traveling too fast, failing to maintain the proper lane, and operating under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In the past 2 months, we've also seen an impaired driver crash into an impaired driving sign, and a drunk driver pulling over next to an officer who was arresting someone else for DUI to complain about the police car lights being too bright. So yeah, they're all getting dumber.
Nominee number 2.
Here's one guy who didn't have a good Friday last week. Cops in Florida got a call around 2 a.m. Friday morning about a guy breaking into a house in the suburb of Orlando called DeBerry. The guy's name is Blake Tokman, and he's 34 years old. He smashed a window trying to break into somebody's house, then left and tried to break into a second house. Now here's where things get a little weird. When cops arrived, Blake was fully greased up and naked. Turned out he'd covered himself in wheel-bearing grease and peppermint oil. Yeah, I don't know why. He tried to run away, jumped into somebody's swimming pool, climbed out of the pool, and then hopped on their trampoline. And that's where cops arrested him, on the trampoline, which wasn't easy because he was so slippery. Thankfully, he didn't have a chance to do any naked jumping. The grease and oil made a weird paste, and the cops thought it was toothpaste at first. They're pretty sure he was on something, but he wouldn't say what. He's facing a bunch of charges, including 2 counts of burglary.
And the winner is...
the drunk driver who crashed into the police department sign. You are the Yam Bag of the Day, and we'll move on to Friday's Yam Bag of the Week competition. Keep it here for all the nominees for Prospector's Yam Bag of the Day, weekday mornings on Rock 107. In the Prospector's Prime Cuts podcast. Be sure to catch us live weekdays from 5:30 to 10 a.m. on Rock 107 or online at rock107.com or the Rock 107 app. A free download for your Android or iPhone. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss Prospector's Prime Cuts.